Good afternoon. It's brilliant to be here. Phil Halley, Chief Defence People. I've been in the Royal Navy for 33 years, which seems like an age, but it's passed in no time at all. Originally a logistics officer, but in the last couple of years, very firmly in the people space, both as the Director of People and Training of the Royal Navy, but also for the last year or so as the Chief Defence People, looking at all three of our armed forces and the civil service, leading the people function defence, along with Esther Wallington as the DG People. So, I think you'd have to be living in a cave somewhere to realise that, the world is a more dangerous place right now. We face a confluence of threats with a resurgent Russia. They will continue to contest Euro-Atlantic security. Within a few years, China could be trying to realize their ambitions in Taiwan. Iran is flexing its muscles, deepening investment in nuclear weapons and conventional weaponry, and on destabilizing some of its near neighbors. And in the Korean Peninsula as well, North Korea's leader shows an undiminished appetite to sustain the militarization of the peninsula. Now, these threats are global threats. And with a limited financial headroom that all of our Western nations have in the defense space, it is absolutely vital to value, retain, and exploit all of the talent that exists across the defense enterprise, both here in the UK, but also amongst all our NATO allies and partners and our Five Eyes partners as well. More than ever, a broad range of skills, diversity of thought, and agility in our approach are needed to protect our nation in this complex global environment. And warfare of the future is going to be all about skills in a way we've perhaps never seen in our lifetime. Digital, cyber, engineering, STEM. These new skills are in short supply across our whole economies, and therefore we need to make sure the defence gets and attracts and retains the best. And the fact that we are all in this room together reflects our commitment to drive inclusion and diversity that will produce a more balanced, more capable, and more effective workforce across defence. And when I say defence, I really mean the enterprise as a whole, not just the armed forces. Only then can we play a full part in delivering our mission to protect the nation and help it prosper. And by extension, to support our friends in NATO and our Five Eyes partners. I know there's many of those dialing in remotely today, as well as also, I understand, in the room. Now, enabling our service women to maximize their skills and their knowledge and professionalism, and by doing so to fulfill their potential, is a priority for me, but it's also a priority for the whole of defence. In the past 3 years, the armed forces have been on their own journey, with our lack of diversity and inclusiveness exposed publicly by a House of Commons Defence Committee report on the experiences of women in the armed forces. And that report made uncomfortable reading. It unequivocally delivered three strong messages. And these were that, as an organisation, we tolerated women as a bolt-on rather than embraced the potential that they provided us as an organisation. Behaviour towards women was often belittling and sexualised. And the military career system was rigid and unable to accommodate life events. Now, for an organisation that prides itself on great leadership, these criticisms were painful to read, but necessary to hear. And they have set us inexorably on a path to cultural change. Now, we most definitely have not yet reached our destination, but we are absolutely committed to the journey. And the report further highlighted one heartening fact, and just linking to some of the positivity that Angela highlighted at the beginning. Of all the women who had contributed to the House of Commons Defence Committee report, 90% would recommend a career in the armed forces. So this was about making us better. So we knew that we had good foundations on which to build, and we've been building for the last 3 years. Firstly, The awareness that the armed forces, through history, tradition, and inertia, have treated women as the exception rather than the norm was addressed in a number of practical ways. Simply, first of all, we made sure that our combat clothing was designed specifically for the female form. We provided a greater range of sizes of body armor, which were designed to ensure an improved fit, essential for the life-saving protection to women who were fighting at the time in Iraq and Afghanistan, to enable a workable range of movement as well as the protection of them and their lives. But we also changed the policies, creating policies to ensure that women could have uniform tailored or refitted to take account of the impacts of pregnancy and menopause over a career lifetime. And just as one small tactical example, but yet actually it sort of started a journey of looking at every single element of an organization which was not properly equipping the women who serve with us. We introduced sports bras routinely right across all three of our single services, which were absolutely vital for personal confidence and fitness training. That was almost on day one. And that started the ball rolling into areas of women's health, where we have now got to a space where the supply of menstrual support products on deployment and exercises has become routine. And there's an excellent guidebook now out there for serving women and also their line managers, who often are men, on all aspects of women's health. And where once the subject of periods and urination were completely taboo, we now understand that enabling women to carry out these natural functions with dignity through the provision of a shiwi or flight deck urination systems in our aircraft, such as Typhoons, will optimize women's performance and by doing so, allow us to get the best out of our female members of the armed forces, but also, frankly, for the men in the forces to get over our embarrassment. Now, harder to crack are some of the unacceptable behaviors evidenced in the many organizations which are predominantly male. The armed forces has unfortunately had its share of critical newspaper headlines, reflecting that some of our people were not living up to our values and standards. The famous military banter, which can absolutely keep you going when times are bleak, can oh so easily spill over into harassment and bullying without a strong challenge culture and clear consequences for those who breach our standards. Various surveys, such as the Sexual Harassment Survey, the Armed Forces Continuous Attitude Survey, and unit-level climate assessments, as well as anecdotal evidence, tell us that we aren't getting it right across the board. So we've established the Reaffirming Our Standards program, led by Esther Wallington and also by Sam, and I think she'll be referring to it in a moment. And this is absolutely necessary if we are to move quickly and unequivocally to a position where we stand that deeds and not words are what are most important. And so that our position for all of those who work for us is not in any doubt. And we introduced 3 zero-tolerance policies just over a year ago on sexual abuse and exploitation, sexual offending, and unacceptable sexual behavior. And the message was clear across all 3. If you carry out any of those activities, you can expect to be discharged from your service. Now, 1 year on, we are currently evaluating all 3 of these policies, and we'll test and adjust where necessary later this year to make sure that we're getting it right across defence, but also getting it right across each of the armed forces. We've also changed the service complaint system so that it's now easier to submit a complaint through an app on your phone and also to track the progress of that complaint through a new online complaint management system. More importantly, we've taken decisions on all complaints of a sexual nature away from the chain of command. The system is more independent and transparent, but of course, it takes time for confidence to build. And with an eye to more serious crimes, including rape and sexual offending, these are now dealt with by the Independent Defence Serious Crimes Unit, a brand new entity which has enabled us to bring together a highly professional cadre of highly trained investigators. And alongside that, we've created a bespoke victim and witness care unit, which trains empathetic and experienced caseworkers, provide advice guidance, and support. Feedback from victims has shown how important this support has been to them as they go through their journey to seek justice. Now, modernising military careers to improve attraction and retention and deliver workforce resilience has been a central pillar of our work in the Defence People team. And Rick Haythornthwaite's report on into armed forces incentivisation highlights the need for us to find out what matters most to our people as individuals and to give them greater agency and flexibility if we're to retain them in the services. And in particular, the employment of women in an organisational model that preferences the man as breadwinner with a compliant wife follower, like in the 1950s, cannot continue. Now, we know that the demands of service life can also disproportionately impact women who find the inflexibility of the system and the policies hampers their progression. Professional female personnel are still predominantly the caregivers within family units, and the need for stability and flexibility during those important life stages is often a deal breaker on whether to stay or go. And therefore, where policies do not support, then we must change them. We're trying to address this in a number of ways. First of all, by ensuring that we offer excellent support on the childcare front. We're recently introducing wraparound childcare in September 2022, which provides school-aged children with funded care before and after school. And the take-up of this has been really excellent, with 7,200 children already enrolled by some 5,000 serving personnel. And for each one of those children, that benefit is worth up to £3,400 per year. Users of the scheme have commented on its positive impact on retention. One user survey described the scheme as a game changer and a massive help in providing much needed financial support, considering the current cost of living crisis. And a new defence childcare strategy and action plan will be published in the early autumn. And this will facilitate access to childcare for service children, so it enables service personnel to continue to undertake their duties and, where possible, support serving and non-serving partners to pursue their own career, training, and also other opportunities without the constraint of the requirements of the service life getting in the way. And our current flexible working policies, which allow all serving personnel to dial down their commitment for a period of time by working fewer days, are not being subject to deployment for a limited period, have been expanded to include a job share provision. And already around 3,600 personnel are using some form of flexible working. Around 25% of those are women. And the take-up has increased by 50% in the last 2 years, which shows its popularity. Long-term, however, we are moving through the Haythornthwaite review to provide a true spectrum of service. This aims to remove the current rigidity and constraints